Amick of The Athletic, and it's a phone Sam, not a driving Sam today. So the bad news is we don't get to see his pretty face. The good news is we know that he's going to be, I always worry about distracted Sam if he's driving around doing the phone things or doing the video thing. So Sam, we miss your pretty face, but we appreciate you joining us. How are you, friend?
Good morning, David. Doing fine. This is not driving Sam. It's packing Sam. We're rushing off to the airport from Oklahoma City.
Oh, are you okay on time?
Yeah, I think we're good.
Okay.
I have positioned it appropriately, so we're good there. I just can't sit in front of the laptop.
They're going to clip that up. I've positioned it appropriately. Welcome in, Sam Amick. Why are you leaving OKC? Nothing going on there anymore? You're not staying at what is it, Bricktown?
I'm staring at Bricktown out the window of my hotel. We may have, blown off a little steam with fellow writers last evening at a local establishment, and I said to the bar owner, I was just like, well, we're about to get used to this place, because not only on this playoff run, but for years to come, I think these Thunder are going to essentially demand that a lot of national media spends a lot of time here, because they're a pretty damn good team.
I love it. And I want to start by running one of my crazy theories by you. And as always, feel free. I just got slapped down about suggesting they slow down on people that walk when they play golf. And there's a million reasons why I was wrong about that. So let's just go for a streak now on me being stupid. Sure. With everything that's going on with the Thunder, the fact that they're the youngest team in the NBA, they have probably more draft capital saved up than any team in NBA history, including Danny Ainge's Celtics back in the day. They got multiple people signed for a while. I go on and on and on. Anyways, if the Thunder win the title this season, in which they are heavily favored to do, combined with, you hear reporters saying all the time, you see the think pieces, how this could be a crazy offseason because of all the aprons and different cap things. Sam, is it possible that this could be one of the most consequential title wins in NBA history, because it will bring on an onslaught of copycat owners that say, hold on, you mean I could be in a small market, spend in the lower third, have the youngest team in the NBA, have a pile of draft assets, and win an NBA championship? Go do what that guy did.
No, I hear you. I think I don't have the numbers in front of me. Spending in the lower third, if that's true now, then it's not going to be true for much longer. So the second apron doesn't have mercy on anybody. But I think what you're hitting at, and that is accurate, is the fact that, it's gone from a superstar league and my God, they have the MVP. So they're not lacking for a superstar, but the depth. And, somebody asked Chet Holmgren last night, why is this team able to, forget what word was used, but intimidate and defend the way they do and be so, daunting for their opponent. And he said, we have 17 guys who get after it and never stop. And I'm paraphrasing, but when he said 17, it was just like, good Lord, like he's not really that far off from being accurate. Their depth and the fact that, they could throw the other Jalen Williams in and he has good minutes against Nikola Jokic and you have Cason Wallace and Kenrich Williams and too many guys to count. That depth should make owners and GMs pause when they go the route of the Phoenix Suns and try to oversimplify things and say, if we get 2 or 3 stars together, then we're in business. To me, that's the biggest takeaway.
I don't want to get too nerdy here, and you don't have the numbers up. And of course, when we get into mathematics, that's where I really sound even more dumb than usual. But I'm looking at, first off, next year, everyone's signed. Everyone's back. AJ Mitchell and the other Jalen Williams, not the good one, but the other one. They're the only ones that aren't signed next year. Those are on team options. Then I'm looking at the following year. This is actually fascinating. The only people that are up, Hartenstein, who's on a descending contract, Dort, Kenrich Williams, Cason Wallace, and oh, by the way, we forgot Nikola Topic, I think the number 12 pick from last year's draft, who missed all year. He's coming back for them next year. So it just gets better. Anyways, those guys are all on team options, and then Chet Holmgren's on a qualifying offer. That then, look, 2 years from now, not next season, not the season after, but the season after that, yeah, Shea's out, Hartenstein, Dort, all those guys, but it sure seems like they're pretty dialed in, at least for the next 2 years.
Well, they are. And then, and I'm sure you could find this relatively easily online too, but the massive treasure trove of draft picks is the answer to all of the contract situations that await. They're going to lose, multiple of the players that you mentioned eventually, but they have just draft picks for days. So, all you got to know about this team, Dave, is, and I've kind of written this even before last night's win and the finals appearance and the fact that it looks like they're very likely going to win the title. And it would certainly be my favorite. I have poked around on the Giannis front in relation to this specific team because they have the pieces to do it. And I've yet to run into anybody who knows what's happening with the Thunder internally, who thinks that it's being given any serious thought. Like they are good. They like what they have. They're not going, that a move like that would presumably shorten their runway. And that's not what they're wanting to do. They're wanting to dominate for a decade.
So, and we'll get back to that in a second, because I have a question specifically about Giannis. Just to answer your question, you were right. It was easy to find online. This year, they have 2 firsts and a second. Next year, 2 firsts and a second. Following year, 2 firsts and 2 seconds. 28, they have 1 first and 3 seconds. 29, 1 first and 5 seconds. That's at least 20 total picks. That excludes protected picks over the next 5 drafts, and they're the youngest team in the NBA at 24.2 years old on average. So I've been saying this all week too. I don't know who Sam Presti's assistant and third in line and fourth in line, but they're all about to be millionaires from some other team.
You think? I don't think so, buddy. I don't think they're going anywhere.
Yeah. Well, look, if they, okay, I'll couch it this way. If they,
I think you're underselling what they've like the history. Sam, in particular, 17 years with the organization, came with them, was the GM in Seattle. I mean, this is Sam's operation. And the last couple of weeks, I've actually spent a fair amount of time talking to people about how he runs it. And it's so interesting because, first of all, the people beneath him and the ones, who certainly helped a great deal with this operation, like, he knows a good thing when he has it, and he kind of structures things in a way where he compels people to stay for quite a while. Like, not a lot of people leave this organization, and and truthfully, he makes it tough for them to leave, but he makes it good for them when they're here. So it's kind of it's a twofer, if that makes sense. So like, I hear you, but it's not your typical like you kind of cut your teeth here and move on. It's like, no, they're trying to be the number one organization in the NBA.
You know far more about this than I do, and I have no argument. I just find it interesting that I got to think if the Thunder win the title this year, even if they don't, but if they do, that you're going to have owners. You're going to have owners across the league looking what they're doing, and by the way, what Detroit and what Houston are doing to an extent, what Utah is probably about to do with their picks and Danny Ainge. And go, okay, who is Sam Presti's top lieutenant who's been learning from him for, I want to give him $8 million a year over, I want to give him a 4-year, $32 million deal. That's tough to turn down.
No, it is. It is. I mean, yes, the concept you're talking about is accurate. I guess, it's not to get in the weeds too much, but like sometimes they decline permission from other teams.
Sure.
They want people to stay. But yes, you are correct. The thing with, we don't talk about GM's legacies that much. And, to your point, I guess to build off it, like, I find Sam's legacy so interesting. We just had a front office ranking earlier this season where he didn't only win the poll that was, voted on by his peers. Like we polled around 40 front office executives. He won it in a landslide. Like the only thing the guy is missing is a championship. He's literally like that player, like James Harden, Russell Westbrook, Chris Paul. They don't have a championship. Like Sam Presti is about to see his executive legacy, in my opinion, because I think they won it all, like changed, forever, because he's done everything but that.
It's honestly, as a Kings fan, I am horrifically jealous. I am green with envy, but you have to tip your cap in a small market. And Clay Bennett, for all the enemies he made years ago, taking the Sonics, has really, honestly done you have to say, a really good job staying out of the way and allowing Sam to do his thing. But that brings me now to another team on the rise, the San Antonio Spurs. And when you talk about Giannis, obviously any big free agent, any big trade, whatever, Oklahoma City, I imagine, with their draft capital and money, is always going to be mentioned. But how real are these rumors, or these things we see that San Antonio might very much make a play for Giannis?
I've seen mixed reporting. Admittedly, I don't have great intel there. I've seen others say that they're definitely going to hold on to the number 2 pick, which would make it very tough to get Giannis. I think it's insane if they don't look at it, because, basketball people who are much smarter than me will tell you that Giannis and Wemby is about as natural a fit as you can imagine. Like, good luck switching on that. On both ends of the floor, it would be dangerous. So, I think the first domino that we are all guilty of having skipped over is, does he want out? And I'm really curious to see what happens. Like there's, there for sure are discussions being had about how he sees it. If he did ask out, what would the market look like? But, you still don't have to work that hard to run into people who think he might stay put. If you look at the East, what happened to Boston and them falling apart so quickly, not only with Tatum's injury, but, the second apron stuff that they're facing. If you're John Horst, the GM of the Bucks, you can accurately tell Giannis, like, the East just got a lot easier, and there's a decent chance if you get traded, either to the West, which is loaded, that's a tougher road to hoe, or in the East, wherever it is, like the Bucks are going to be trying to get everything they can in a possible deal. So how, what does the team look like on the other side? But yeah, just in a vacuum, Spurs, Giannis, Wemby, that whole crew. I mean, yes, that could be pretty special.
The other series going on,
of course. Sorry.
Yeah, you forgot about one guy. That's fine. We're speaking of things that are painful for Kings fans to talk about. The Pacers are one win away from the NBA Finals. Yeah, I know. We've spent plenty of time on Tyrese Haliburton and that team in general. A lot of the conversation around here, Sam, and you live here, is honestly turned to, that trade for Sabonis was a failure, this, that. But, we've been talking a lot this week about how the context of that. I'm not trying to say Sabonis is better than Haliburton or vice versa. I think we'd agree Tyrese Haliburton's the more coveted player. But really, you have to credit Kevin Pritchard and the job they did, and just kind of learn, I would say, in the sense from the Sacramento Kings point of view, they went out and they got Haliburton, but then they also got Pascal Siakam, and they got Nesmith, and they drafted Mathurin, and they made plenty of moves afterwards. Conversely, as you know better than anyone, the Kings, after acquiring Sabonis, the big thing was, why is the front office sitting on their hands? They went after Siakam famously, but it just seems like that trade being lopsided in favor of the Pacers is kind of an incomplete statement, I think. When you consider everything else the Pacers have done, it's almost an insult to them.
Yeah, I think I'm torn. I don't think I'm totally on your side on that one, because again, like if you just go Sabonis versus Haliburton, one, as far as a player, and not to dehumanize him, but an asset.
Yeah.
One guy has a much shorter runway at this stage, because you're talking about a 5-year gap in age roughly. And the other, just, age regardless factor, is that Tyrese looks like the more unique, impactful, special player for championship purposes, especially like we've talked about in today's NBA. He's a lifter. The way that he plays. If people haven't seen it, by the way, my favorite social media thing lately is people comparing Tyrese to Steve Urkel.
Steve Urkel.
Famous Family Matters, pickup game, and it's
right.
hilarious because it's not a stretch at all. But I think that I kind of went on a rant the other night with somebody with the Timberwolves about this, where I was like, man, I don't have the energy to like make it a thing, but since you now asked me about it on the air, yeah, we need to revisit the narrative. It's not the win-win that we claimed it was before. It's just not. Tyrese is the better player. They should have probably found a way for him to play with Fox. And if it didn't work with Fox, then you do what you ultimately did anyway, and you move Fox and you build around the Kings. So yes, more happened after the trade. But I think the Pacers, without question, got the better end of that deal.
And I don't disagree. I think we're talking to each other, but a little not past each other. I don't know what the hell the term is, because you're listening, I'm listening. I guess, let me ask you this. Let's go back in time. Same exact trade. Fox is on Indiana, which you and I have documented for a long time was not on the table. Fox is in Indiana. Haliburton stays in Fox's place in Sacramento. Now Fox is on the Pacers, and Haliburton is here with Sabonis. Okay. But the Pacers go out and do all the moves they did, and the Kings go out and don't do all the moves that they didn't. Are we still having this conversation about Tyrese Haliburton?
I mean, I hear you. There's a lot of ifs for me to track.
I know, yeah.
All that matters is that, the player, there's just certain players that, it was almost universal at that time that people said, oh boy, that's not a player that especially an organization like the Kings should let go. And truthfully, and this happens all the time, it's that unfortunate element of short-sightedness in terms of the organization wanting success, more quickly, and putting pressure on the front office to compete now rather than some kind of slow rebuild. And that leads to more short-sighted moves. Domas is a very good, great player in today's league, but Tyrese is he is right now, literally the hottest dude out there. You know what I mean? And it looks like he's going to be that for a minute, and that could have been in Sac.
Are you saying Sam Presti wouldn't have made that trade?
Yes, I'm saying that. Sam Presti has, he also has, even though it's a small market, pretty tremendous backing from owner Clay Bennett, who has stayed out of his way. It's the same thing we've talked about the entire time. Nobody in this league, ownership-wise, meddles less, I feel confident saying, than Clay Bennett, the Thunder owner. And so good on Clay, because there's two key choices. I won't meddle, and I will pick a guy who's good to run my front office. And it's worked out pretty well.
Are you saying, Sam Amick of The Athletic, that Kings fans might be facing a situation where Luka Doncic was in the finals one year, Tyrese Haliburton will be in the finals the next year, and it could be Fox versus Haliburton in the finals the following year? That's really where we're headed, aren't we?
Listen, buddy, I'm not. This is where you get me in trouble. Somebody texted me yesterday. They're asking me some Kings questions just from another team, and I literally wrote back I don't actually know the answer to that. I'm taking a break from the Kings, and it was pretty great because they wrote back, "I love that for you." So I have resisted the urge to have the thoughts that you are now sharing be tweets, because I'm not trying to pile on from the top rope.
Yes.
If I was Aileen Voisin back in the day,
Ugh.
or Mark Kreidler or Scott Howard Cooper, a Sacramento columnist, yes, if I had something to write on a random Wednesday during the playoffs that the team I covered wasn't part of, yes, I would write a column about the 6 degrees of Sacramento component that is happening, and it would not make Kings fans happy to read. So you're not wrong.
Do you think Clippers fans are going through any part of this watching Oklahoma City as opposed to Indiana and watching Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and some people saying that trade may end up being the Herschel Walker Dallas Cowboys equivalent in the NBA?
Yeah, for sure. You know, the low hanging fruit comedy that you just gave me is like, you know, Clippers don't have fans. But like, yes, the one
that was you.
I'm just going to pick on everybody today.
Aggregate that, Evan. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, they for sure should. It's funny, I haven't read it yet. There's a young man who's in the business who covers the Clippers who, to his credit, was asking for feedback on a story he wrote, and he texted it to me yesterday. And I still need to look at it. But the headline was like, why the Clippers got it right by saying goodbye to SGA. And I was just like, oh boy, like I'm ready for this analysis because I'm not seeing that. Yeah, so I'll do you one further just to take the, you know, not to beat the Clippers up too much. The Paul George component to these playoffs is really interesting because you have the Thunder getting here largely on the backs of this Paul George trade that sent him to the Clippers. You have the Pacers having pivoted off of the Paul George era to what they are now. There's even a front office executive with the Thunder, Rob Hennigan, who used to be with the Magic. He was their GM, who ironically, he's the one who traded Domas and Victor Oladipo to the Thunder in a deal that played a part in the eventual deal, like the deal before the deal, if that makes sense. And like all these different kind of threads that all tie back to Paul George. That's another thought that, you know, that's a column that Paul George wouldn't enjoy reading because the general idea is that getting off of Paul George has inspired all this success. But it's a pretty wild little kind of, you know, web, if that makes sense.
That's insane, dude. You're so right, because Oklahoma City drafted Sabonis, and then he went to Indiana as part of the George deal. And then he goes from Indiana to Sacramento for Haliburton. I'm talking about Sabonis. It really is like 2 degrees. It said this is going to be the Paul George finals, dude. I know.
And you're cleaning up my mess because I forgot all the details. But yeah, it's like getting off Paul George is the way to go, apparently.
Okay, again, they're going to clip you up, dude. You got to relax.
And I'm tired. I slept for 4 hours. Give me a break.
That might be the best one you ever said. Okay.
Get your mind out of the gutter, David.
That's what you get for doing a show with a 12-year-old. All right. Well, Sam, are you coming? Are you coming home, or are you going to New York or whatever?
No, I'm coming home, man. I need to get home in 2 weeks. Yeah, I got real life waiting for me.
Back to the Grove. All right. Well, Sam Amick is the man, the myth, and the legend, writes for The Athletic. As always, get your Athletic subscriptions. You can tailor all the journalism for all the teams, all the sports, whatever you wish, as to your liking, and it is a steal at twice the price. I fully say that with my chest because they do excellent work, including our friend Sam. Safe flight. Say hello to the wife and children, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, brother. Be good.
Okay, you take care. That is Sam Amick. God, I don't. How have I not thought of that? It's probably everywhere. It's just been a week for me. How have I not sat and thought about this Paul George component involving both Indiana and Oklahoma City and Sabonis and Haliburton? Wow. And by the way, I'm very much aware that 90% of you are probably saying like, well, duh, Dave, don't you do sports for a living? How much? I just honestly hadn't thought about it. I couldn't get past us. God. That's a tough truth to drive towards. You know, it's not difficult to drive towards, though, is a fantastic deal on a brand new Hoblet Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram. Hey, look, what's that over there? It's Woodland. It's 5 minutes from the airport. It's also the home of our good friends at Hoblet. Family owned and operated, and they run their business the way, in my opinion, a business should be run. They want repeat customers. They want you to have a great experience. Seriously, they want you to have a great experience because they also want you to come back. They want your kids to come back, your friends to hear. The word of mouth is so important in this day and age. And let's be honest, there's car dealerships everywhere, and everybody's got the latest Sunday deal of the century. But with Hoblet, it's just being honest. No dealer markup, even on the crazy to find vehicles. No dealer markup.